So here in Montana, it's beautiful. We have a ton of breweries and chai shops and lovely parks to take my dog to, which is why I sort of have a hard time imagining it being completely destroyed and covered in 6 feet burning hot ashen pumice. But you know me. I live for danger. Fact is, just 250 miles from me lies one of the Earth's largest volcanoes, which you probably know as Yellowstone National Park. And it is still active, though it's not one of those cool mountainous oozy volcanoes that Hawaii gets. The Yellowstone Volcano is one of a half-dozen or so tantrumy mountains that earned the title supervolcano because its eruptions can eject nearly 250 cubic miles of ash, dust, and gas. For comparison, that's about 1,000 times the volume of Mount St. Helens eruption in 1980, which was in itself a pretty big deal. But you shouldn't be surprised. Yellowstone is famous for its hydrothermal features like geysers and hot pots and fumaroles, which are all products of this volcanic hotspot, where half-melted magma swells up close to the Earth's crust. The problem is when Yellowstone goes all Christian Bale on us.
Oh, good for you! Yeah, you know, you see you walking around, going through your fumaroles. Yeah, I'm gonna kick your
which it has done 3 times in its history. Those eruptions were so huge that you can actually still see their effects from space. This ring that surrounds Yellowstone National Park is a crater or caldera that was caused by a series of eruptions that happened 2.1 million years ago, and we can still see them. The first of them was the largest, which left a divot in the ground the size of Rhode Island and deposited ash so far away that the rock formed from that ash, called tuff, can still be found from Los Angeles to St. Louis. The second happened about 1.3 million years ago and was the smallest of the 3, still managed to leave a 23-mile-wide crater in eastern Idaho. And the most recent, about 640,000 years ago, was less than half as big as the first, but still equaled about 2,500 Mount St. Helens, covering hundreds of miles of western North America in a foot of ash. Now, to give you a sense of how mind-blowingly huge these events were, here's how the Yellowstone's greatest hits compared to some other gigantic eruptions. I can't believe I live in the same area code as that thing. Now, there were no people around when Yellowstone last erupted, but history has shown us what some of its colleagues have done, and it's not pretty. The most recent supervolcano eruption happened about 75,000 years ago when Mount Toba blew its lid in what is now Indonesia. Toba spewed probably around 720 cubic miles of stuff into the atmosphere, sent sulfuric acid rain falling as far as Greenland, and 6 inches of ash fell in India. And scientists think that all of this debris spewed into the upper atmosphere actually caused a miniature ice age, which we can see in the geological record. Ice core samples show that the Toba eruption was followed by a global decrease in temperature of 5 to 9 degrees that lasted hundreds of years. So maybe that was just a coincidence? We can hope. So I know you're wondering whether or not you should cancel your plans to come visit Montana. First of all, no. You could totally crouch on my couch. But secondly, the geologists at the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory, which is a thing that I'm glad we have, say that if they could predict the eruption of this massive supervolcano, which they can't, it wouldn't be overdue for another 100,000 years or so. So there's that, at least, and I hope that you come to visit Yellowstone soon because it's a pretty freaking cool place, even if it is one day going to kill us all.
So what's the point of this video? Well, let's ask the question, what if the Yellowstone volcano did erupt? Say the volcano actually explodes in the present day. How would the world react? Now, one viewer may say, this is an alternate history. Well, you're right, but it sure is an interesting scenario, so we'll cover it anyway. If the volcano actually did erupt soon, we would have a fair bit of warning. Using measurements of temperature and volcanic forecasting, scientists would give an alert if the eruption was imminent. An alert could be seen a few days or weeks before the initial eruption. Scientists would report to the United States government first before all else, saying that a catastrophic event is about to begin. Full-scale emergency mode begins nationwide. The US government calls on the citizens to evacuate the entire western portion of the country. It would be the largest full-scale evacuation in American and world history. Since people would only have days to leave the area and their homes, there would be chaos for those trying to leave, and others exploiting the loot left behind. Mass riots envelop across major US cities, mostly in the west. In a few days, states like Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, and Utah are depopulated. Their citizens gone and crossing the Mississippi River. Many would be stuck behind. Those who don't have cars in the cities or too poor in rural areas would have to wish for the best in the impending fallout. Stock markets would crash across the globe. Economies are put in jeopardy from simply anticipation of the eruption. The days before the eruption would be filled with panic, dread, and dramatic shifts in demographics. Refugees would make shelter east of the Mississippi or as far as they could go. Then one day, the volcano erupts. In under 10 minutes, the states of Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming are literally wiped off the map. Their landscapes explode and are covered in volcanic lava. Ash flies into the atmosphere as an ash cloud forms across the mainland United States. For an 1,000-mile radius, the ground is covered in 10 feet of volcanic ash, making 2/3 of the country uninhabitable. Much of this land is located in the Great Plains, destroying vast amounts of agriculture. The ash cloud causes a dramatic shift in the Earth's climate, shifting the world into a volcanic winter. The United States struggles to maintain control in the weeks following the eruption. The ash cloud would make air travel impossible, and fallen blankets of ash cut the country into two. The West Coast is stranded. In other parts of the globe, countless crops and livestock could die, leading to millions of casualties from famine. Who knows how the rest of the world would react to such a situation? Best prediction is the loss of the United States to global markets would bring on a depression far worse than the 1930s. Social upheaval certainly would happen across every nation, combined with terrible harvests, famine, and new disease. This upheaval could bring civil war, revolution, and other civilization-destroying side effects. In the months after this eruption, many look for a scapegoat to blame this on. Even though the eruption was purely an act of nature, various political and religious movements in the US arise in response to this catastrophe, movements we could not even imagine. From such a drastic period of events, it's hard to say if the United States or other countries would survive the Yellowstone eruption. This is simply one scenario though, and is not an 100% prediction. Sometimes it's just fun to predict, no matter how morbid it is. What do you think the world would be like if Yellowstone erupts?
Hey guys, Dabu7. Scientists confirming a huge find. They're saying they have found a massive magma chamber that they thought was there before, but now they've proven it inside of Yellowstone, and they say that there's enough molten rock in here to fill up the Grand Canyon 11 times. They use this technique called seismic tomography, and for the first time they have a complete picture of the volcanic plumbing system, so to speak, in Yellowstone. And for those that don't know, this area straddles the borders of Wyoming, Idaho, and Montana. And they're saying that they've known for some time that this large magma chamber under Yellowstone was responsible for the eruptions 2 million years ago, 1.2 million years ago, and 640,000 years ago. And they're saying that this new reservoir that runs down through here is 4.5 times larger than they ever had proof of showing. They say that this doesn't change things, that it's going to blow up, things of that nature. But regardless of what they say, in that sense of it blowing or getting ready to blow, you're really going to have to watch the signs of quakes, magma on the move, so to speak, rumblings. They say that this new area, lower magma reservoir in the Earth's lower crust, is located 12 to 28 miles under Yellowstone, with a volume of 11,500 cubic miles. And that's 11.2 times the volume of the Grand Canyon. So an interesting confirmation, nonetheless, in proving that there is a massive reservoir that runs down here, this